All right, it is 1 a.m. local, but you know what? That is early enough to do my top 25 that you will see on Fox Sports later today, where you can go read it, go check it out on the socials. But let's talk through it. Number one, I have Oregon, who moves to 11-0. They got scared by Wisconsin. They come back to win that game 16-13. Dylan Gabriel did what he needed to do, and Jordan James was able to finally get them in the end zone. Their first TD in that game was in the fourth quarter. They had to have it. They come back. They win that football game. They move to 11-0, looking like a Big Ten championship team. Number two on the rankings list, I got Ohio State. They get a win against Northwestern. There are Ohio State fans that thought it looked sloppy, thought it looked like junk. I thought it looked great. They scored on 5 consecutive possessions. It's Northwestern, I get it, but at one point or another, the only thing it's going to make Ohio State fans happy is winning a national championship. Beat Michigan, win the national championship. I'm not even sure that the Big Ten championship is the second most important thing on that list, but it is important enough for you to win because you would like to win the Big Ten championship. I am inclined to believe that the 5 spot is the best spot in the college football playoff, but we can talk about that one just a little bit later on. Number 3, I got Texas, who defeated Arkansas 20-14. It looked for me like, or 20-10, excuse me. It looked for me like Arkansas had an opportunity to come back and win this thing, and then Texas took the air out of the game, ran out the last 5 minutes of the clock in what was a really impressive effort of just sitting on Arkansas's chest and allowing them not to do much of anything. In that game, we're talking about Quinn Ewers getting the business from Arkansas fans. Arch Manning's name was trending on the Twitters, but the Texas defense was the star in this game. 231 total yards allowed, 6 sacks of Taylor Green, and creating 2 turnovers in this win. The Longhorns have held 8 opponents to 17 points or fewer so far this season. Indiana, idle at number 4 for me, 10-0. That's a massive game between them and Ohio State at the Shoe on Saturday. That team that wins, they're playing the Big Ten championship game. At number 5, I got Penn State, who defeated Purdue 49-10. Tyler Warren, probably the Mackey Award winner, had 190 total yards, rushing and receiving, 2 total TDs in the win against the hapless Boilermakers. The Boilermakers have not beaten an FBS opponent all year. Notre Dame defeated Virginia 35-14. The Fighting Irish got 137 yards on 16 carries from Jeremiah Love, who also had 2 TDs in that game. But again, it's the Irish defense that has been starring. They've allowed 14 points or fewer to 5 opponents, and they have not given up more than 24 in any game this year. They feel like the kind of team that's going to get in here with 11 wins, and I don't see a loss for them ahead, except maybe Army, which is the second large game coming this weekend. Army is undefeated. Alabama at number 8 for me. They defeated FCS Mercer 52-7. They got they got Oklahoma and Auburn left. They should get to 10 wins, and then we'll see. I got Georgia at number 9 here. They defeated a top 10 Tennessee 31-17. Carson Beck put together the best performance I think he's had all year with 346 yards through the air, 35 passes. Pretty outstanding stuff for him. But more outstanding was he didn't throw the ball to other people, so Tennessee didn't have a turnover. It didn't have a sack, had 2 tackles for loss. The tight ends became a really great advantage for Carson Beck in this game, Oscar Delpa in particular. But seeing Carson Beck operating at the level you know he can, when he is operating like this, that team can win the national championship. To say nothing of the Bulldogs were bullying the pass game that was Tennessee. Dylan Sampson still went for 100 yards, but Nico Iamaleava could not find anybody downfield, didn't throw for more than 165 yards in this game. Number 10, I got Southern Methodist, who defeated Boston College 38-28. Kevin Jennings had 24 of 35 for 298, 3 TDs and a pick. SMU looks like the best team in the ACC, and if they win that ACC title game, they're going to be one of the 4 highest-ranked champions in the sport, meaning they're going to get a bye and win the ACC championship in year 1. Not bad, Rhett Lashley. Ole Miss is idle, but that's one of the stronger teams with 2 losses in the SEC. Miami also idle there. They have the 1 loss, but they feel like a contender in the ACC, and then it gets to be interesting, right? Because I'm looking at the rankings, I'm going, okay, who are the better teams here? Because at 13, I got Colorado I have Texas A&M based on what they have been able to do so far right there at they defeat New Mexico State, but that's a team you're supposed to beat 38-3. They continue to stay at the top of the SEC standings. They look like a team that is this close to playing for the SEC championship. Marcel Reed had his best game so far. passing-wise, 268 yards through the air, 20 of 31, 2 TDs and a pick. And A&M didn't allow a point scored until they were up 31-0 in the second half. And then it gets to be interesting, right? Because I'm looking at this and I say to myself, okay, what am I going to do with Army? What am I going to do with A&M? What am I going to do with Tennessee? So it's as simple as I could put Colorado at 12, or I could put them at 13, or I could put them at 14. I think putting them ahead of the presumptive SEC champion is asking a lot, but that's where I'm going to draw the line. I think Colorado is the best team in the Big 12. They also demonstrated with this win against Utah, 49-24, that they must be reckoned with. They put 49 up on a Utah team that hadn't allowed 49 points to be scored on that defense since 2014. Deion Sanders went for 340 yards. He put up 27 passing TDs. With his next passing TD, he'll have the single-game record. And, of course, Travis Hunter is the Heisman Trophy winner. He had a rushing TD that was supposed to be a passing TD, but was a rushing TD. So now he still needs a passing TD, but he has a rush TD, a receiving TD, and hopefully a passing TD. He's got a forced fumble. He's got gobs of tackles. He's got 69 catches for 865 yards, 9 TDs to lead the Big 12, and he's got 3 interceptions. It's him and Champ Bailey who have had 40 catches and 3 interceptions in the same year, and Travis Hunter's done this twice. Champ Bailey did this once. That is the kind of company he is keeping. Let's not play with this, right? That is the Heisman Trophy winner. And then we can start talking about teams like Tennessee, who for a second loss to Georgia and had a loss to Arkansas. I think they are out of the college football playoff. I just don't see a way for them to get back in, depending on how you view that win against Alabama. But Alabama's got the win against Georgia, and I think that would put them ahead when we're talking about ranking these teams accordingly. Army right there with them. I think an undefeated Army is going to continue to rise. They get this win against Notre Dame. They might move into the top 10. They will certainly be the highest-ranked Group of 5 champion for me. They beat Notre Dame, and they finish undefeated against a Tulane team that has not lost in conference play. Boise State behind them. They defeated San Jose State. Come back from 14-0 deficit to win 42-21. Ashton Jeanty rushed for 159 yards, 3 TDs. He's got 1,893 rush yards this year. He needs 736 to break Barry Sanders' single-season record of 26-28. It's possible. I just don't think that is likely. Clemson moves up to 18 with the win against Pittsburgh, 24-20. 50-yard rushing TD for Cade Klubnik there to come back to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And Pat Narduzzi got to be punching air as he got 350 yards passing on a Nate Yarnell, and they still managed to lose that football game. That's tough, man. Behind them, I got South Carolina. South Carolina 34-30 win against Missouri. That was really great. Lenore Sellers became a different player. 21-30 for 353 with 5 TDs and a pick, and what was a dramatic win. Behind them, Arizona State, who moves to 8-2. 24-14 win against Kansas State. Really great win for them. Jordan Tyson had one game of games, man. 12 passes caught for 176 yards, 2 TDs in this win. That's their second win against a team that was ranked in the AP Top 25 at the time of facing the Sun Devils. That's pretty good. Iowa State dispatches Cincinnati to stay right where they are. Tulane, 35-0 win against Navy. It's their first shutout of an FBS opponent since 1997. Not too shabby, especially knowing that Navy is 7-3 now. Missouri behind them. After the fall, they get to 7-3. It's okay. And then at 25, I got Memphis, who is 9-2 with losses to, Group of 5 teams, but they got that nice win against Florida State that I know doesn't mean much to many, but inside of that conference, that's a huge win for them. And they'll be right there at the end. I think they're going to get a really good bowl game. It's just they happen to be in a league where the 2 teams at the top, Army and Tulane, are undefeated in conference play. It's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do about that. The headline here is obviously Colorado moving up for me. It's also about college football playoff predictions and where I think this team is going to rate, because I do believe that it is one of the 12 best teams in college football, but I don't know that the committee's going to see it that way. They're going to have to win the Big 12 championship. And you know what? What's nice about that is they got a road here. I had BYU basically at 16. I skipped BYU. That's on me. I had BYU at 16 in here, and everybody else moves back. But the reason I flipped BYU from 5 to 16 is, frankly, this win or this loss to Kansas, who is 4-6 now, but was dangerous the whole way, was a long time coming, right? From the moment that they were able to get that win against SMU's only loss, I might add, it felt like they were always on a ragged edge there. They should have lost that game to Utah last week. They didn't. Kudos to them. They're trying to get to 9-0. It didn't quite get there for them. But you know what? They're still got a shot to play. Not a shot. They're still right there in the Big 12 championship game against Colorado. It's just they are one of 2 teams with 1 loss. So the next loss for them could get them out of this thing, and it's given new life to teams that otherwise would be out of this thing. Sucks for Kansas State because they took this loss, right? Because they feel like they played themselves right back into this thing. But I think the Big 12 champion is the only team from the Big 12 that's going to get in. And right now that feels like Colorado. They beat up on Kansas, who is, again, dangerous. They could lose that game. Or they lay a dud against Oklahoma State, and then we're not talking about this anymore. But the nice thing about Colorado is they're right there, man. You win the next 3 games, you're in the playoff. And then you win the next 3 games, you win the national championship. There are 6 wins from playing for winning the national championship, and they're trying to equal their best season since 2016 when they won 10 games with a defense that's playing lights out. They got 34 sacks on that team. Perspective is, 33 sacks, excuse me. The last time I had 34 was 2016 when that team got to play 14 games. They've got 33 through the first 10. They're probably going to break that record. Outstanding what Robin Livingston has been able to do with that defense. And I think that there are things I want them to clean up. They have lapses on offense and defense where they have stupid penalties that they're been able to get away with because they're just so talented and they get explosive plays out of Travis Hunter, out of Will Shepard, even out of Isaiah Augusta, who had a 37-yard rushing TD against Utah. And Shedeur Sanders is a magician back there. But when you get into the deep water against Georgia, against Ohio State, against Oregon, against Indiana, that is when these things start to show up, and that is when your maturity is going to have to be rock solid. So you can already see Prime trying to turn the ratchet up, going, no, forget the Big 12. You got to be able to beat Georgia. You got to be able to beat A&M. You got to be able to beat Notre Dame. You got to be able to beat Ohio State and Oregon, and then we'll see.